Hey and welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to cover one of the most important skills in this entire course. And to be honest, it's not specifically about scripting. It's about prompting. That's how you ask AI for a script, which really determines everything. A vague prompt gets you something that half works, but a well-structured prompt gets you something that you can actually use and build upon. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to ask, and we're going to look at loads of real examples so you can really see the difference for yourself. So I've got ChatGPT open here in my browser. You're absolutely welcome to follow along if you want. Otherwise, you can just watch the video and take down notes. Both are absolutely fine. Now, I want to actually show you what I mean. A lot of people, when they're first getting introduced to AI, will treat it a lot like we do with Google searches, with just the most basic type of prompt. So for example, if I was to just ask ChatGPT, write me a PowerShell script, alright, it's going to go and it's not going to be a good time, right? It's going to ask us, well, you need to give me more information, right? It doesn't do anything useful because I haven't told it specifics and I haven't told it what I need. It's kind of like if you called a plumber and just said, I need some plumbing done. You're not going to get anywhere with that, right? You actually have to give it context. But again, even a little bit of context is not enough. So if I was to even just say something like write a script to manage users and hit enter, again, it's saying manage users can mean many different things, all right? And it gives me a script here. But this isn't anything useful in most cases, right? Because again, I've been too vague. How are we meant to manage these users? On what system? Which users? It's going to make vague assumptions, and those assumptions are not going to match your environment. Now, these are pretty extreme cases, right? But I really do want to get through to you that it's all about how you prompt AI in the long run. So again, we've got a nice script here, but it's probably not what we need. So, how do we actually prompt? Well, most people go wrong with AI scripting because they're not prompting correctly. They give it a one-liner and they wonder why the output doesn't quite fit what they need. So let's fix that. Let's talk about what good scripting looks like. A good scripting prompt has 4 main ingredients, and I want you to remember these because we'll use them every single time throughout this course. Number 1 is the task. What do you actually want the script to do? And the more specific you are, the better output you're going to get. Number 2 is the environment. Are we talking about us managing Windows Server? Are we talking about Linux? We might even have to get even more specific and talk about what Linux distribution. Is it Ubuntu? Is it Debian? Is it Arch Linux? Is it, one of the hundreds of different Linux distributions out there? Are we talking about Active Directory? Are we talking about LDAP? What version? The more context you give, the better the output. Number 3 is we really need to prompt our AI, what should the script produce? Are we asking for a report, a log file, a message on the screen? Tell it. And number 4, if there are any constraints. Should it handle errors? Does it need to run silently in the background? Should this work over multiple operating systems? You don't always need all 4, but I will say the more you include, the better your result is going to be. Let's actually see this in action now. So let's take an example where, as a system administrator, it's our responsibility to manage disk space on a Windows server. Alright, so the prompt that I'm going to write here, and I'm going to paste it in as I wrote it earlier, write a PowerShell script that checks the free disk space on all drives of a Windows server. If any drive has less than 20% free space remaining, output a warning message to the screen showing the drive letter, total size, the free space, and percentage remaining. Include error handling. Alright, see the difference? We've told it the task, the environment, exactly what we want displayed, and we've asked for error handling on top. You might even save some sort of template that every time you go to ask ChatGPT or Copilot or Claude or whatever AI tool you're using, you can use that template each time and just fill in the blanks. What we've asked here is really everything that we need. So we're going to go ahead and send the prompt. It's going to think about it for a moment and boom, check it out. A script is being written as I speak. And look what it gives us. This is a script that I could actually test and then potentially use in an environment. It's got clear variable names. It handles the calculation for us. And most of all, it actually outputs something readable. And if something goes wrong, it's not going to crash silently. Now, what we've got here is a really awesome script. But what we don't have is it explaining what it does for us. And again, you can go and then ask AI, and we'll talk a lot about this further on in the course. But if you're just looking at this and it's gibberish, right? It's just absolutely beyond your skills as a sysadmin, you can go and ask the AI to break down each line by line or each section by section and explain to you what this is. And the reason that is so important is because that way you're not just blank copy and pasting, you're learning as you go. All right. It's so easy these days for people to just be able to copy and paste from AI straight into environments. But if you're not learning as you go, then what's the point? Because at the end of the day, we're not gaining new skills and that could hurt us in the long run. So we've seen here a really good prompt. Let's look at another example with even more information. All right. So I'm going to, and again, this probably isn't one you'd use in a production environment, but for our testing and for our learning, this is fine. Write a PowerShell script that creates a new Active Directory user account. The script should prompt the operator to enter the first name, last name, and the department, and it should automatically generate the username in the format of firstname.lastname name and set a default password of welcome123. Again, not a strong password, but for the lab, this prompt is fine. And force a change password on first login. The script needs to confirm the account was created successfully at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and send it. And again, almost immediately, we're getting something back. This script is something that automates a very, very manual task that a lot of us are still doing manually. User creation, I've stepped into environments where people are creating maybe one or two or maybe even dozens of accounts of a day manually, when there is a perfectly good scripting language like PowerShell letting us be able to automate that task. So instead of something taking us 20 to 30 minutes, it could take us 2 or 3 minutes. Think of all the time that you could save, even if it's not yourself, if it's a team member or if it's another department. The amount of time that you could save really can be put into something better. So have a look here at what it's produced. It's clean, it's readable, and it exactly follows the logic we described. That's the power of a well-structured prompt. Now, I've spoken twice now about PowerShell, but you absolutely do not have to just write PowerShell scripts. That's the neat thing about AI. Whatever language you want to write a script in, it can help you. Let's switch to Bash, for example, right? And say we want to write a Bash script for Ubuntu server. Remember, we have to tell it the environment, and we're not just saying Linux, we're specifying here Ubuntu server. So write a Bash script for Ubuntu server that checks whether the following services are running: Apache 2, MySQL, and SSH. For each service, output whether it is running or stopped. If a service is stopped, automatically attempt to restart it and log the result to this path with a timestamp. All right, so we're going to hit here. Again, I am not signed up, so it's asking me to log in. I can just click the stay logged out button for now. You can go ahead and create an account. One of the really cool things about having an account is all of your prompts will show up along the library on the left-hand side here, so you can always go back to them if you need. For me, as soon as I get out of this session, all of my progress will be lost, so just keep that in mind. So again, here we have a task environment output in our constraints. We've named the services, told it what to do if one is down, and specified where to log it and asked for specific timestamps. That last detail really matters because without it, you'd get a log file with no context about when things happened. And again, look at what it has given us. It has given us a full Bash script with an example of what the output's going to look like, an example of what the entries to the log will look like as well. And it's even given us instructions of how we could set this script up to be run automatically through cron. So this is it. Before we wrap up, a few things I do want to say to avoid. Don't ask for too many things in one prompt. If you need a script that creates users and sends an email, all right, break that potentially into separate prompts and build it in stages. Never ever assume the output is perfect, all right? AI can make mistakes. Even ChatGPT tells us this exact thing right down here, down at the bottom, all right? It might use a commandlet that doesn't exist, or it might get the syntax slightly wrong. So that's why later on we're going to be covering why it's so important to test and verify before you ever use a script. And don't give up just after one bad result. If the first output of your script isn't quite right, don't scrap the whole thing. We're going to refine the prompt and ask again, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the course. But the more specific you get, the closer that it's going to get to what you need. So to summarize, vague prompts get vague scripts. So always make sure you're including the task, the environment, the expected output, and any constraints. Use the conversation to iterate and build on what you've got, and ask it to explain the code so you actually understand what you're running. Thank you very much for sticking with me in this lesson. I sure hope you learned a lot. I'll see you in the next one.